He said, that little girl on that phone looked just like mine at home. He said, I almost unholstered my weapon right there and took him out. He said, but I knew if we
Right.
did that, we'd lose all the other kids, right? So,
Yeah.
and in fact, when the trafficker handed me the phone and he says that, he goes, this is Princess. In the movie, that's the little girl they call Princess. We named her Rocio because my wife at the time was named Rocio. So that little girl that they were looking after, we named her but that was the
Cool.
culminating point of that rescue and why I was like, whatever, let's whatever. How much money do you need? What do we need to do? And he goes, we just took delivery. She's still a virgin. We just took delivery of some. And, she's my gift for you for this party. And he started talking about these horrible things I could do to this child. And I thought, oh my God, I thought if we could get these children out before they were ever abused the first time, that would be a miracle.
Our guest today is an executive producer of the box office hit Sound of Freedom that has surpassed over 150 million in ticket sales within its first month. He played a key role in the undercover rescue mission portrayed in the film, and since that time, he has led over 70 undercover rescue missions in 15 countries. He is the founder of the Child Liberation Foundation and has dedicated countless hours and donations to making an impact in the fight against child trafficking. He has countless accolades honoring him for his service and especially his huge heart. Welcome to the show, real-life superhero, Paul Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mike. Honored to be here.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you. A lot of people love watching their superhero movies, and I love all that stuff too. I grew up on Batman, a great film franchise, but I'll tell you what, watching Sound of Freedom and seeing these real life missions, I just wanted to honor you first for what you've done in real life. The movie's awesome, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I want people to know after they listen to this interview and they really love your story and they want to take action, they want to do more and actually be a part of this, they can check out Liberating Humanity podcast. That's your show. And on Instagram, it's at liberating.humanity. And I got that clickable in the show notes for everybody who wants to dive more into Paul's story. Congrats on the massive success of Sound of Freedom. And I just want to say this. In my opinion, it truly is one of the most important films ever made. That's not an overstatement, ever made. And I'd like to thank you again for making that happen. And obviously those real life missions. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. It was our purpose, day one, was to create a movement. I told him, listen, I'm not going to be the primary investor in this film if it's just going to be something that's going to make us a bunch of money. I'm not interested in that. This has to create a movement. So we had interest from guys at Sony and Lionsgate and Paramount in the story itself, but they wanted full control, the ability to do whatever they wanted with the storyline, and they could have done some dark things with it. They could have make it, whatever it was, but we needed to have the heart there. We needed to show really what was happening with these kids because back in the 1700s, there's a guy named William Wilberforce, and he was a wealthy, well-connected, well-spoken businessman who had seen children in chains, but he couldn't take everybody there. He couldn't take them all on the slave ships, and so he figured out ways to show the people really what was going on, and he was a driving force to eradicating trafficking. So I believe that's what this film is going to do in our day.
And I'll tell you what, you have been doing that. It's obviously popular at the box office, but what's really cool is those that are seeing it, like myself, turn around real quickly, share it with their friends, their family, have the important conversations at dinner time that need to be happening, and it's really encouraging that conversation. I did a solo episode about that. I just want the audience to know, go back a couple episodes and you can tune in to really what I thought about the movie. But I do want to share something with you I think you'll appreciate, especially being a producer. I saw the movie in its second week, and I saw it at 9:45 p.m., which I don't think I've ever gone to a movie at that hour on a Thursday night. And I thought I was going to be, among a handful of people. Packed. The theater was packed. Literally, the only rows that were available were those like ones that would kill your neck, the front row. Like that was the only empty seat in the house was like the chiropractor seats, that you're guaranteeing that you're going to need to see your chiro the next day. So that was awesome to see. And then I'll just share a quick moment with you. So I actually went to school studying film, and so when I see a movie my friends and family hate going to the theater with me because I'm always analyzing the cinematography, directing, editing, the story. And I just wanted to let you know, this is not just one of those, like, it's an important movie, but yeah, it's just kind of like a B movie, or, it's a documentary. It could have just been on a streaming app. This is a really well produced. The acting is great, right? Shout out to Jim Caviezel, and the rest of the guys. I mean, I don't care who it was. It could have been someone that had 3 seconds of screen time. They were fantastic. The children were great in this movie. So I want to give that. But the thing that was weird about it is after the movie ended, as great of a movie as it was, now you're infuriated, you're devastated, you got
What do you do
heartbreak, and it's a
next?
very real feeling. So it's like, that was a great movie, but oh my God, now I'm hurting. I literally sat in my chair and I prayed and I asked God, please allow me. I'm a I'm a pawn on your game board. What are you gonna do with me? Do whatever you want. You just have to let me know because I'm not smart enough to figure it out. But God put me in the right spot. And I did that episode because I felt called to do it. And after my Monday email release went out, shout out to Todd, our mutual connection, who connected me to you. And I feel like God closed the loop
Yeah.
because I asked for some exposure on this. And who better to give the information from someone who is there personally, who's on the missions, who was a part of the film. So that's my little kickoff to this episode. I do have some questions prepared. But yeah, that's
Thank
a
you.
very real thing, man. 9:45 at night,
And
packed
I'll
theater.
bet you people clapped at the end, and you don't hear that very often at a movie.
Nobody got out of their seat immediately.
Yeah.
I think they were just hit with that wave of reality.
Yeah.
Um, so when did this, I want to go before the movie,
Mhm.
before people started to hear your name. I know you were a successful business person. We can talk about that if you'd like. But when was this first moment that this hit your heart, like inspiring you to get involved and go on these missions? Do you remember when
Oh,
something
yeah, there was
triggered you to
multiple
say,
things.
I'm fighting this? Yeah.
I've been very involved with child-related charities for many, many years. I was on the Make-A-Wish board of directors for 7 years. I had served in a lot of different child-related charities, and I received a phone call almost exactly 10 years ago from our Attorney General in Utah, Sean Reyes. And he said, Paul, he said, I
Mhm.
know you've helped a lot with child charities. He said, I want to introduce you to somebody. Um, he's a Homeland Security agent. He's found about 20 children in Cartagena. We need to raise some money to pull these kids out and get them back to their families. And I thought, what are they doing in Cartagena? Are they, I mean, he said they're being trafficked. I'm like, trafficked? What's trafficked? What does that mean? I didn't understand.
Mhm.
And he said, well, they're being sold for organ harvesting, sold for sex. I'm like, children? I mean, who would pay for that? It was
Yeah.
beyond my comprehension that would even happen. And then he introduced me to this Homeland Security agent, and he told me the story of these kids and how he had been involved in taking down pedophiles. And I'm like, this is making me sick to my stomach. But if my goal is to have a positive impact in the lives of children with the different charities I'm doing, what better impact than to pull them out of hell and get them back to their
Right.
families? And so I helped to introduce him to some people, bring in some money, and then a bit later, I got a phone call um, from Tim. He was in Colombia. And he said, Paul, he said, I'm here in Cartagena. There's not just 20 children. There's more than 100. There's more than 50 children in Cartagena, more than 100 children in other cities that we've connected with. He said, we have a
Mhm.
plan. He said, I think we can rescue 100 children on the same day at the same time, but I need your help in a bigger way. And I'm like, well, how much do you need? He said, I need
Yeah.
you. Can you be in Colombia in 2 days? He said, the head trafficker has a piece of property that he wants to develop into a child brothel, sex resort, hotel. He needs a few $1 million to do it. And this guy has connections with these other traffickers, including this female who's running this fake modeling agency that was like a Miss Cartagena. And we need to be able to get her and these others together. And the only way we can do it is if you fly in and you tell this guy, listen, I'm willing to fund your deal under one condition. We have a party in a couple weeks. I'm going to bring my rich friends.
Mhm.
you show up with all the inventory that you have and these others, you show up with at least 50 kids, I'll pay for your resort. So 2 days later, I'm in Colombia. I'm faced.
I want people to know too, who haven't seen the movie, this is a little bit of like a disclaimer maybe that this is a real scene, a real, this really happened and it was depicted in the film in a really well done way. But I just want people to know this is real. So either if you want this or maybe fast forward, if you haven't seen the movie, actually, I'll tell you what, if you haven't seen the movie, press pause on this podcast, go see the movie and then continue watching it. But this is, I'm getting goosebumps because this rescue mission you're talking about was so amazing. And it was like, yeah, people were celebrating this, like when it went down, and how you guys did it. But I'd love you to share how you orchestrated it.
Well, 2 days later, I'm in Colombia. I'm literally face to face with the most evil people on the planet. Now, of this almost 70 additional rescue missions I did later, I was Paul Stone, Paul Steele, Paul Black. I had an undercover profile. They didn't have time to put that together. Day one, I was Paul Hutchinson. I was myself. I went down as me, right?
Oh my God.
My background
Wow.
is I'm the founder of a multi-billion-dollar real estate investment fund. Now, Tim knew I had some background that made me somewhat safe in a dangerous place. I wasn't just some rich dude coming down to, whatever else. But at the same time,
Did your family know what you were doing, by the way?
hell,
Like, I don't know what your family
not at the
situation is
time.
today.
My mom would have killed me
Yeah.
if she knew. But
Yeah.
I will say
Yeah.
my business partner. So I have two business partners, and one of them was there when I took the phone call. We were in Atlanta, Georgia, and he's like, "Okay, this seems like." An hour later, I get a call from John. John's the co-founder of the fund with me, right? John calls me up and he said,
Yeah.
"Paul," he said, "Have you thought through this?" He said, This is really dangerous. He said, "You're set. You could sell out today, buy an island, be happy the rest of your life." And my answer was this. I said, "John, would I really be happy if I bought an island, if I bought a yacht?" I said, "If I was doing something else dangerous tomorrow, if I was climbing Everest, you and I would have the same conversation." He goes, "Yeah, we probably would." I said, "And when I'm 95 years old and I'm looking back on my life and I say I climbed this mountain and I built this multi-billion-dollar company and I helped rescue this many children from slavery, which one of them matters?"
Right. Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah,
Awesome.
I understand, Paul. You've got the skills they need in the background." And so, and I'm in Colombia 2 days later. I'm in this meeting, and halfway through the meeting, one of the traffickers leans forward and he goes, "Pablo, I have a gift for you." And he hands me his phone, and there's a picture of an 11-year-old child, 11-year-old girl on his phone. He said, "This is Princess. She's still a virgin. We just took delivery of some." Now, in the movie, the Homeland Security agent gives me a picture. I'm my executive driver, and this picture made me have that commitment to go. In real life, I was already there. I was face to face with the traffickers, and seeing that picture galvanized my commitment. I'm like, "Oh my God, this is really happening. These guys are
And as you're
selling
feeling
this
that
child."
real moment, Paul, you also had to stay in character and not tip off the fact that you were impacted in an emotional way. You had to be like, "Yeah, where's
Yeah. What was
bring it on. Where's the inventory?"
What was crazy, Mike, is that I had a Navy SEAL standing right behind me, right? He was my real bodyguard and my show bodyguard, right? He was standing right behind me when this trafficker hands me this phone. And he goes, I need to go check out that restaurant, make sure everything's safe. And whatever. He walked. Later, when we were doing the debriefing, he said, "That little girl on that phone looked just like mine at home." He said, "I almost unholstered my weapon right there and took him out." He said, "But I knew if we did that, we'd lose all the other kids," right? So, and in fact, when the trafficker handed me the phone and he says that, he goes, this is Princess." In the movie, that's the little girl they call Princess. We named her Rocio because my wife at the time was named Rocio. So that little girl that they were looking after, we named her but that was the culminating point of that rescue and why I was like, whatever, let's whatever, how much money do you need? What do we need to do? And he goes, "We just took delivery. She's still a virgin. We just took delivery of some. And, she's my gift for you for this party." And he started talking about these horrible things I could do this child. And I thought, "Oh my God, I thought if we could get these children out before they were ever abused the first time, that would be a miracle." And something he said made me
Mhm.
realize he had more than her. I said, Fuego, I said, you have more virgins? He goes, oh yeah, I got 3 or 4 more. I said, you have to bring those to the party as well. You're bringing them
Yeah.
too. He goes, oh no. He said, we can't do that. I'm like, what? He said, they're too
Yeah.
expensive. I'm like, dude, I'm already paying $25,000 for this party. I'm paying $500 per child for 50 children just for 2 hours in the afternoon with him. He goes, Jefe, you already
Mhm.
paid $25,000. He says, you want to F these other virgins? It's going to cost you extra $2,000, maybe $5,000 for that little one. It'll cost you maybe $10,000 more. I was so mad, Mike. I had a nice shirt on. I had a $50,000 watch on. I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't think I can afford an extra $10,000? He's like, oh no, Jefe, no. I said, I want every one of those virgins at my party. I said, they damn well
Mhm.
better still be virgins when they get there. They're not for you. They're for me. You understand? He goes, oh yeah,
Yeah.
Jefe. So that was my
Yeah.
first
You
encounter.
played that up that was so incredible that you had that composure and thought, like, I gotta play this guy, and what would someone in this role, the real person that would be making this
Well,
decision, how would they react
the
to this
reality, I
guy?
was
You
mad.
did it.
I
You
was
that
mad
that
for
was
real.
yeah,
For real, I was mad at
I
him. And
know.
I was like, how do I let this mad
Yeah,
emotion show up here, right? I'm
yeah.
like, he's
You took that and you generated into this other emotion,
yeah,
which was incredible.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was transformational.
Again, everybody that's watching this should have already seen the movie, so continue to share because to hearing it from you who actually was there, I
Well,
think is
and
even more incredible.
it's not going to ruin the movie. And the fact that,
Yeah.
Tim halfway through the movie is like, okay, I've got to, he's calling his wife on the phone. He's like, I've got to leave my job and I need this money for this. And I
Mhm,
can pull this off if I can convince Pablo, right? Now, understand this too,
mhm.
Mike. In the movie, there are hundreds of people involved that we had to condense all of their involvement back into a few characters, right? I wasn't the only
Right.
guy funding this operation. There was guys like Glenn
Yep,
Beck
yeah.
came on board and brought his people and contributed money. There was a lot. There was even the rescue mission itself. We had 8
Mhm.
different rescue missions that we compiled in together. The one in the jungle, we weren't after that little girl. We had already
Right.
found her. She was there at the party. But that was another one that we had in a whole different country, an entirely different team that went in
Right.
and dressed as doctors, et cetera, to be able to make that work. And so
Yeah.
so but everything really did happen. These were just different missions.
Can you share how while you're at this, I'd love people if they haven't heard this yet, I think it's just really interesting and you're on the edge of your seat when you're watching it, but in real life, I want people to understand what was going on. So you're posing as this real estate mogul that's got all the money and you're going to build this hotel in Colombia, right?
Mhm.
That's essentially going to be like a sex hotel for children.
Yeah.
And then people, guys with, and guys and girls, I guess, come in from all across the world with money, and this is what they do in this place. And you're playing it off as like I'm the guy funding it. Bring me the goods. And now they're supposedly bringing the children to this island, which this is turning into the biggest what's the word I want
Child
to look
rescue
for?
mission in history.
Child
Mhm.
rescue, yeah, child rescue mission in history. Thank you. And so this is all going on, but it doesn't necessarily go just every A, B, C, D gets checked off. There's a 45-minute delay where you have to buy time because the actual rescue boats were delayed because of a sleep in or something. Can you talk about somebody
Yeah, so
most
so this
important alarm
this
of their lifetime they slept through
this
it? But
won't
yeah,
this
can
won't
you
hurt the movie
share?
because this part wasn't depicted in the movie, but
Yeah.
holy crap. So we're on this island. The guys had met with the US Embassy, the Colombian federal agents. They had provided 40 agents for us. Like 4 were our maids and our waiters and our cooks. They're not very good cooks, but they're armed, right? And a bunch of them were there to storm the island at the right time. And the right time was when we ordered tequila, right? We had undercover cameras to make sure that we captured everything that the traffickers were saying because we didn't want the children to ever have to stand trial and witness against them. So we're having this, they
Hmm.
bring 54 children. And there was 2 other cities with simultaneous operations, 54 children there in Cartagena. We put them in a separate place in the house. So we don't want them seeing the guns and all this stuff going on, right? And we're out there at this
Right.
table negotiating with these guys. The darkest conversation you can imagine, asking them why the children were there, where they got them, what they were willing to do. Dark conversation. And then we have all the information. We order tequila. Boom. 2 minutes later, the agent's supposed to come, right? 2
Yeah.
minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It was 45 minutes later before the agents came. We found out later that some lady, part of the Child Protective Services, slept in through her alarm. Whatever. It was long. But we didn't know that at the time, right? All we knew is that we ordered tequila, time for the party to start, time for the agents to come in and arrest us all. Well,
What were you thinking in that moment? Were you thinking maybe they got captured or something, or people figured them out?
yeah, we
Or
don't
you
know
just
if
you must have had a bunch of things rolling through your head of why there's a 45
we
minute
had no
delay in the
idea. In
plan.
fact, the Homeland Security agent, he steps aside. We had a bunch of people that were, praying for us and helping us and whatnot. And he texts one word to the group, and it was pray. People
Wow.
were like, pray for what? We don't
Yeah.
know. But it was
Yeah.
a dangerous situation, because not only but the traffickers are like, okay, time for the party, right?
Yeah.
One of them gets up and says, all right, here's the cocaine. Let's start doing the cocaine. One goes, I'm going to go get the kids and bring them out. We
Yeah,
couldn't
you're
do
like,
that.
how do we delay this even further? And 45 minutes is a long
Yeah.
time. I mean, people, if your meal comes out 45 minutes later at a restaurant, that feels like an eternity. I mean, you have 54 children's lives on the line, plus you and your team there, that this whole thing could go wrong, and it could end up in gunfight. Now, the scene when we're talking about Tim
Mhm.
Ballard, who was Jim Caviezel's character, was
Mhm.
Tim. He had a gun pulled on him, and then he had to kind of diffuse the situation. Do you know if that was actually
No,
true,
no,
or was that
there
just a
was
little
there
bit?
wasn't a gun that pulled out there. The traffickers didn't show up with their attorney, the Don Wong. Those were things that happened in some other missions that they brought in somebody else that wanted to do some stuff with the kids, etc. That didn't happen in that Columbia one. However, we needed to have. In fact, they brought all the kids at the same time, but we needed to show that delay that really did happen there. And so there wasn't
Yeah.
a gun that was pulled there. However, the traffickers did get up and say, okay, it's time for the party to start. And so we're like, what do
Mhm.
we do? And so this is a time where I believe that it was divine intervention that I was there. Not because I'm anything special. I mean, these Navy SEALs can kick everybody's ass, right? But the fact that I had
Mhm.
negotiated hundreds of business deals and written out business plans, and I'm like, wait, guys, you know what? You just proved to me that you could provide what you said you could provide, right? You got all those kids in there, awesome. You bring them out, you bring the cocaine. I'm going to be effed up for the next few days, right? How about we do this? We're all
Mhm.
here right now. Why don't we figure out our deal, right? Bring out a notebook and
Mhm.
a pen, and I start asking them questions. I says, let's write out this business plan right here. Mike, this
Mhm.
is where we got a lot of the information for the movie and everything else, was this conversation where they were telling us in detail where they
Yeah.
were getting the kids, what they were willing to do with them, where the money was coming in from, where their clients were coming, all of this stuff. It was a really,
Mhm.
and it was a dark conversation. And what was scary about it is that business plan penciled, easily penciled, meaning it was
Right.
in the black, like week one, right?
It was like them talking about a game of football.
Oh
Like, it
yeah.
was just this is what they talked about and lived it, and it was no concern.
No.
Just they were penciling it in like a business, like you and I talking about a real estate
Yeah,
deal. I
they're
mean,
like, this is how much it's going to
unbelievable.
cost for us to bring in a little
Yeah,
Colombian girl, and this is what it costs to bring in a little
yeah,
American girl, right? And this is what it costs
right,
to bring in a boy, and that we have to give them drugs and stuff so they don't cry. I mean,
yeah,
it was like they were just talking to it. This is business. This is how we do our business right here. Here's how it works.
right. People need to hear this and understand this is real. This
Yeah.
is real, and it's happening too in the U.S. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But to kind of continue to share the story, I want everybody to hear it from you. So you buy some time. You're kind of using this business deal to slow the process down, and then when did you know, hey, this is actually happening?
Well, I had to extend it out more. I got the traffickers arguing with each other. I actually said, okay, I'm going to
Hmm.
fund this, but I want 55%. You guys divide up this. If I think you should have 35, and these guys, and then they're all fighting with each other about who gets
Yeah,
equity in this new company. And then
yeah.
boom, all of a sudden, and this is 45 minutes later after we're negotiating, all of a sudden the agents come and start coming in from all sides, guns drawn, on the ground, on the ground. They're throwing
Hmm.
us all on the ground, and I'm down on the ground. I've got Sean Reyes. He's the attorney general now in Utah, right? He was acting as my bodyguard. We called him La Sombra, like the shadow, right? And he pulls me
Yeah.
down to the ground, and we're laying there on the ground with, hot sand and the ants and stuff, and the traffickers are all thrown on the ground. And they think that we're getting extradited to the U.S. to stand trial, right? We're all getting
Right.
arrested together
Super
with them.
important that you do that too, because then they just assume that you're still one of them
Yeah,
and that you're getting arrested too. Otherwise, they'd pin your face and your backstory and they wouldn't get fooled twice. So you have to
yeah, yeah.
put this charade
And
on,
I,
right?
I,
And so you guys do that. You're getting tossed onto the ground and your heart's got to be beating through your chest and everything else.
the thing that changed my life the most was after we were thrown down and they were interrogating the traffickers, and the child protective services people came in with the children. And then they took
Mhm.
the traffickers away on handcuffs, and then they came and let us out of ours, let us up. And I went with one of the operators. His name is Scott. We went to go grab our bags that were in this portion of the house. The house was kind of this grass roof type of a thing, and we were in this
Mhm.
back area. You could hear over the wall. You could hear what was going on in the bigger room, and the child protective services people were in there with the children, and you could hear them laughing and singing. Now, less than half an hour before, I could hear
Mhm.
crying in there because one of the traffickers had
Yeah.
gone in to bring out some of the kids to show them, and they were so scared. And that crying, and then that difference of the laughter and the singing, that sound of freedom was the most beautiful sound I ever heard.
Yeah.
And I turned to
And of
Scott.
course, that's the name of the film.
Yeah,
And
I just
some people might not understand why it's called that. And that's a very real
it
moment.
was it was it transformed my life. It transformed everything. Just hearing that, I started crying. And they weren't supposed to tell the children that we were good guys, but somebody must have said something, because
Mhm.
one of the girls, the little girl, the same one that he showed me on his phone, the same one that half an hour
Mhm.
before they had paraded out in front of me and was standing in front of me with tear stains on her face. She was standing there by the window. Her hand was on the window. She was crying again, but she was smiling and waving, and she said in her broken English, she said, "Thank you." And
Oh, that's awesome.
I
Yeah.
I turned to Sean. I said, "Bro," I said, "I spent my whole life making rich people richer. I wanna make a difference. What do I do? Can I write you a
Yeah.
check?" And that's when he said, "Paul," he explained to me guys like Jeffrey Epstein and others. He said, there's a lot of
Mhm.
demand for this that comes from these ultra wealthy, massive ego guys who," he said, "don't be offended by this, Paul, but they talk and dress and act like you." He said, "That's what the
Yeah.
traffickers are looking for." He said, I can't teach my Navy SEALs how to wear a $50,000 watch and $4,000 suit and negotiate a multi-million-dollar deal." He said, "And I don't know of any ultra successful business owners who've had the training that you've had." He said, "If you're willing to
Mhm.
be the bait, I'll change your whole life." And at that point, Tim wanted to go public. We needed to have somebody be the face, right? That go on CNN, ABC,
Mhm.
everything else. And it would be dangerous for somebody to actually have their face out there and be deep cover, right? In there finding the traffickers and what, that'd be super dangerous. And so it was agreed that
Mhm.
I would take down all of my social media and everything, and I would get rid of any visuals of myself online and work with the Navy SEALs and these guys and continue to do operations. And then Tim and others would come in with the cameras and film and tell the stories of what happened for the next number of years. And so that began my journey of being a part of
Mhm.
this greatest work I've ever done.
You were the right man. God put you in those boots for that mission, for that moment in time. And you were the right guy because you had that experience. You could play the role. You could react when someone was saying, no, you want all that and you can afford it kind of thing. And like you were the guy who could deliver that confidently without much acting, and not blow the cover. And so this is just another a moment on the show of like a God wink that says like, it's happening in front of you. You got to pay attention. He will lead us to our moments of that he has for us. And it's just really cool to see that wasn't a once, even if it was the only time you ever were involved, that's still great.
Well, and I will
But you
say
had
that,
70 missions similar to that. Yeah.
and every one of them, Mike, every one of them it wasn't logic and protocol that helped us find the kids. It was divine guidance every time. And
Mhm.
when I got brought in with new teams, I would say this. I would say, guys, if I'm going to be a part of what's going on here, you need to understand how I see this. I said, this isn't a religious conversation, but you need to know that I believe in God. And most people believe in a supreme being. Some call it the universe or the cloud, whatever. I said, God exists and cares more
Mhm.
about these children than you and I ever could, and knows
Mhm.
exactly where they are. So if you're okay with it, I'm going to start out by asking for some help. And we felt guidance every single time, because when you're going to the pit of hell, and
Yeah.
this is dark stuff. If you don't have a solid foundation of light and truth and love and a connection with God, it will destroy you.
Yeah. I was gonna say break you,
Yeah.
but that's not even destroy you. Absolutely. And so it's a heart compass opposed to a brain compass, and it's good to pull from both of those. But it's really interesting to hear. A lot of times people say try to keep your heart out of a big decision or business deal because emotions can get the best of us. But in that time, your heart compass was the only way, and through God's guidance was the only way you can. That was it. That was the light, literally like following a candle in the darkness. Light in the Darkness, another great
Yeah. Yeah.
segue. PragerU is a great show that shows a lot of the great missions too. We'll talk about that in a second, but I have a serious question to ask, and I'm wondering if with the producers, the director of the film, and anybody who's involved with the film, if you guys worried about any backlash. Um, from the traffickers, from pedophiles, any retaliation? Are they going to harm the children more because they know that this movie came out? Um, Maybe they do something as like an FU to your foundation. Was that a concern? And have you heard of anything? I hope nothing like that's going on.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when you're fighting evil, they do evil things to fight back. And probably one of the most difficult decisions that I ever made was 4 months ago, when I decided that I was going to have a bigger impact in fighting child trafficking by using my voice and the stories of being there than by continuing with the undercover rescues. It would have been safer for me
Hmm.
to continue to go into the pit of hell and do undercover stuff and be completely anonymous. But I
Hmm.
had so much pressure, not only from people, but God kept saying, Paul, over and over again, I said, can it just be about the message? I don't need to be the messenger. I can pay for them. Can I just finance the movie and have it, have him be Pablo? The world doesn't have to know that Pablo is Paul Hutchinson, right? Why do I need to
Right.
have my voice? Why? And I was told, listen, I put you in those positions so that you could share the stories and bring people to
Hmm.
that place where they could see the depravity of human nature and where their choices are leading them, so that you can help people step back and say, what do we do to fix this? What do we do to stop people's addictions? What do we do to stop the violence? What do we do to stop the generational trauma that's happening within our own homes? All of these things that are contributing to the child trafficking problem, you can say, okay,
Hmm.
now that I have your attention because I've been there, you've seen the movie, now let's talk about this. How do we heal? How do we heal humanity? How do we work through that? And so it wasn't a choice. I was told very clearly, Paul, I don't care if you're so scared you're pissing all over yourself. This is why you're here.
Yeah.
This is what you have to do. And so
Wow.
it was, and in answer to your question too, we were just recently in Latin America, and we were promoting the movie, and we were on TV and a bunch of other stuff. And the day after we left, there was a very public kidnapping where it was very obvious that this was a fu to the establishment, to the government, to the guys who were
Hmm.
standing up to the movie. And now I do believe that's going to do way more good, but way more
Yeah.
good. We're
You
going to
have to
save way more
you have to
kids. But
balance. If you cower, then like, okay, well, the movie, it's a movie, but what it really is, it's a movement, and it's really the one of the biggest moments in the history. of humanity of exposing this evil thing that wasn't getting talked about at kitchen tables. I say that, but it's like feels very 1950s for a family to be around at the kitchen
Yeah.
table. But everybody's. But to have the conversation with family, it could be a text message. It could be sharing. I'm going to see this movie on your Instagram reels or your feed or your stories or whatever. The conversations happened. People, there's news outlets and stuff, even though they were delayed in covering it, which has you and I go, what's going on over there? Why do they not want to talk about this film? That's interesting. And I'll leave it at that. But it was so the movie is so important that it happened. And I think I'm not trying to answer the question for you. I really didn't know where this conversation was going to go. And I'm just thinking in the moment to share with our audience that, and if you're ever dealt with a situation where you're like, oh, I think I'm going to kind of like not deal with this because the backlash could be worse than what I'm trying to do. Well, guess what? Then they win.
Yeah.
And the pedophiles and all these evil people just get to keep doing because they're like, oh, we scared them off. So I don't think, like you said, I'm glad that you answered it there. I wasn't sure what you were going to say, but thinking about it, we cannot slow down. We have to double down and continue to fight the good fight.
We've all heard the saying, the only thing required for evil to flourish is for good people to do. And all
Yeah.
of us can do something. Now, you're not going to have an audience full of people that goes undercover in Latin America and goes being Rambo and taking down the traffickers. That's the worst thing that you can do. The best
Mhm.
thing that you can do, and this is going to surprise people, okay? Here's the best thing you can do to fight this. Go hug your kids. People are like, oh, we need to go rescue them. No, listen, the things that are depicted in the movie really happen. However, the percentage of children that are taken in a container into another country, and that's pretty low. The majority of trafficking are from broken families, foster homes, runaways, right? So keeping a
Mhm.
close-knit family is the best way to keep your children safe. And there's a lot of grooming behaviors that happen right underneath parents' noses, where you
Mhm.
need to have a relationship with your children that is such where your daughter or son can come to you and say, "Hey, Dad, I I feel uncomfortable when I hug Uncle Harry. It's just
Mhm.
or I don't feel good when I go over to my friend's house because her brother, touches me, and rubs my
Right.
back in a weird way. Or my babysitter, she's showing us pornography and she says that I should trust her more than you. These are all grooming behaviors that we need to identify and trust that our children are in tune as well. I have a book that'll come out later this year. We're doing one on some of the operations, but later one called Are You Listening? With my hand on my heart. Not with my hand on my ear, but on my heart, because every operation, it was following that still small voice of truth that was leading us. And every single person,
Yeah.
including our children, have, even more so our children, have the ability to really sense things that are out of alignment. And so being able to help them trust that and see that and be guided by something much greater than what we can even guide them with is super important. So these are all things that we can work through. And the other thing to understand is this, and I think this is super important. And for years, I thought, okay, my goal is to eradicate child trafficking. When I'm sitting on that chair on the island and they prayed this little 11-year-old that they showed me on the phone and she's standing in front of me with tear stains on her face, I made a commitment at that moment to myself, to God, and to that little girl that I would do everything I could to eradicate that evil from the face of the earth. And so here, 10 years later, last year I was looking at the numbers. I realized there's more children being sold today than there was 10
Mhm.
years ago. And I'm like, Paul, if your goal is to eradicate child trafficking, you're not doing a very good job, right? Because every time we win and we pull 20 children out of hell, yes, we're making a powerful impact in the lives of those children. But if not enough was being done to fix the demand, another 20 children were being sucked into the deepest recesses of hell. So we
Mhm.
changed our approach. A lot of the Navy SEALs that we pay for their operations, now they're going in and they're just arresting a whole bunch of pedophiles as well as finding the kids. But for me, I'm like, okay, how can I use my voice to fix this? Where is the demand coming from? Now, here's something that's going to piss some people off, and other people, they'll get an aha moment about it. All right.
Mhm.
People ask me, they say, Paul, how can you go face to face with somebody selling you a child and not have them see the anger and the hatred in your eyes? And my answer surprises them. There's a part of me that has compassion for them. You can't have compassion. They're selling you a child. No, I will
Right.
do everything in my power to ensure they never touch another child again and hurt another child like that.
Mhm.
However, what I wish more than anything is that I had a time machine. I can go back 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it was before they ever hurt a child, and
Mhm.
find out what was going on in their life that made them think that that was a good road, right? It was likely that they were raped themselves as a child. It was
Mhm.
likely that 1,000 bad things that happened to them, that doesn't make it okay, because there was probably another 1,000 bad decisions that they made that got them to that point. But what if? What if we could catch them back then? Now, we don't have a time machine, but what we do have is hundreds of millions of people on this earth who have dealt with trauma as a child or who have been addicted to pornography and are going down the road of child pornography, whatever it is. We have a lot of people. And I love the sign of the broken chain link, right? The end of that
Mhm.
link, the very end of that chain is abuse of a child. We don't even want to get close to that, right? How many links
Mhm.
of the chain can we fix way back here that we
Mhm.
can help people heal before they ever pass their trauma on to others, before they ever let their addictions affect other people? That, we focus on that, we will save millions of children.
Paul, that is guys, go back and listen to that last 10 minutes again. That's the most important 10 minutes. I've done 200 episodes. Most important 10 minutes that I've ever had on the show. I saw you talk about that in another interview, and I'm glad you brought it onto this show because it's like not everybody saw that other one. Maybe my audience is tuning in to you for the first time. What you just said there is so important that you get to the root cause of it. Now, I went through a divorce, and after it happened, a lot of finger pointing. And I always said, like, I wish we could have got to the root of it. If people could see the root of it, or if somebody's acting out, this child's acting out in school, you get mad at him. The parent gets mad at him for the act. This principal disciplines him because of the act. You don't know the root of it. For you to stand there and say you had to, find this compassion within that person, the same way that God, Jesus, would for us when we do the wrong thing, because we are all human in different levels. Certainly, I hope never to that level of the person you're talking about, and to have compassion for them because this person for them to act this is a human being. They have a heart in their chest, even though it doesn't seem it. They have a brain because they're walking around, so they're functioning. And if they have those two things and everything else seems to be connected, for them to act this way, there's a guarantee that they were abused in some other way too. Now that doesn't justify, hey, I was abused, so now I'm going to abuse 12 kids because I was abused once. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is preventing the initial harm and cause for the reaction. And that doesn't get talked about enough at all in any situation. Business too. Oh, the business is failing and you're like pointing fingers at the new CEO. 10 years ago all this stuff was going on that caused the fall, but he's the guy getting pinned. So what you just said there, Paul, I appreciate you sharing. I'm holding back tears right now because that was very powerful. And here's the great news, guys, guys and gals tuning in. Thank you for being with us. Paul has a podcast out, and he's getting on stages. And I want you to share where more people can hear and see your word about leading people in this way, so we can prevent this from happening, and we can remember to hug our children. And I got my daughter this weekend, and I think we're going to have our first conversation about her telling me she's 8 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
She needs to be able to tell me if something happens, and how do I get her to be able to share something devastating with me and feel comfortable enough to do that.
Yeah.
And that right there, I think, is a thing parents need help with because we don't know How do we tell our 8-year-old daughter that there's evil people in the world that could hurt her, and or these people might be friends, relatives, the program you're going to after school. We don't know where this can come from and happen, but we need to be able to be proactive so we can take care of it before it happens. So, Paul, most important thing, that was it. And I do have to do one thing. I know you have to run.
You're good. I got time.
We're going to give our sponsors some love. We're going to come right back with Paul, and we're going to hit this thing home because this conversation's one that needs to be happening. And I'm going to probably have you on the show again at some point. We'll continue the conversation, but don't go anywhere. Paul is going to answer a couple more questions when we come right back. Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you, and that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight, and Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business. All right, we're back in action with Paul Hutchinson, and remember, you can connect with him on social media. Check out his incredible podcast, Liberating Humanity. All the links are in the show notes. Check out his other videos. Again, if you haven't seen Sound of Freedom, I'm pretty sure at this point you paused it and went back to watch the movie. If you haven't yet, I believe it's still out. So when this episode airs, which is going to be in late August, potentially early September, it should still be in the theaters. If it's not, I don't know what you guys were doing for
It'll
the
be
last
online
6
as well.
weeks because it's been like the #1 movie at the box office. And it will be, Angel Studios will be releasing it so they can stream it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Shout out to Angel, by the way. They did The Chosen, and they're just
They're such an amazing. You
organization.
know what I love about them, Mike, is that this movie was brought to the people by the people, right? There's this grassroots movement of good people with good hearts that are like, you know what? I'm not interested in Hollywood dictating what I can and can't see and what kind of crap they're going to feed to me. In fact, the interesting little history, you look back with Angel Studios, you know, they had some legal battles in the past. Guess what they were? They had created some software that allowed good people like you and I to filter some of the crap that was coming in, right? If we watched a movie, it was a rated R movie and maybe had some sex and violence and whatever else, and we're like, you know what, that's a great movie other than some of that crap. I'd like to be able to edit out some of that and still watch the film in my home with my kids, right? That gives us the ability to filter what we want to filter, not who big media and whatever else.
Incredible technology.
It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so Angel Studios, the VidAngel, whatever they had before, they got sued by Hollywood because they were giving you and I the ability to filter the crap out, right? It's amazing to me if we take a look at the big picture of the guys who didn't want this film to come out, of the guys who were cut. I mean, we were turned down by by studios that decided that they wanted to bring you movies like Cuties, right? They were sexualizing 10-year-olds, but they're turning down Sound of
Right.
Freedom. Are you kidding me? Right? And so
Absolutely.
it's beautiful to see the
Mhm.
movement of good men and women who are saying, you know what? I'm going
Yes.
to share this. I'm going to share this with my friends. I'm going to use this as a motivation. Yes, it's a dark subject, but we have to see it so that I can be motivated
Mhm.
to have that conversation with my 8-year-old daughter. So I can keep
Yeah.
her safe so that we can make the world a better place.
Yeah. You and I know some of the companies involved. I mean, you could say it if you want, doesn't bother me, but there are some really large organizations that turn, an eye to this. They turn a cheek to this. They literally shelved the movie. I mean, if you want to
Yeah,
name them,
we
name them. I
did.
mean, it starts with a D, and it's one of the biggest film
It is.
studios in the world. And they had the opportunity to release this like Angel did, and they could have put a
Yeah,
great thing out, but they chose
they
not
chose.
to. And I don't understand the evil that it would take to not like to decide to do that. And it hurts because I grew up with their
Hmm.
movies. Everybody
Yeah,
did, right?
yeah.
And it's like I want when I watch a movie, and I still watch some of them. We're talking about Disney, folks, if
Hmm.
you didn't figure it out. And like, going to the parks or watching, Toy Story with my daughter is still fun, but it doesn't sit the way I wish it would, and it doesn't make sense that it doesn't sit well. And so I don't know what happened there, and I'm not a conspiracy guy, and we don't really get into that on the
Well,
podcast.
I want to read you
But the fact
something.
is, if yeah, read me
This is
something, but
awesome.
I just want to
Uh-huh.
finish my thought and say if Angel didn't really save the film, we may not be having this
We
conversation
wouldn't.
today.
The film was for years, for 5 years, I thought, "Am I the only one that thinks
Yeah.
this is a good movie? Why is nobody wanting to take distribution? Why are we getting do they know something I don't about what the general public of the world wants to see? Because to me,
Uh-huh.
this is super special, but maybe that's just because I was there, you know? So,
Yeah.
here's
What's funny, Paul, is there's people that news outlets, notable news outlets. I mean, that's kind of tongue in cheek, anyways. But the articles that were written about this movie that were saying that Jim was involved and what is it, QAnon? I don't even know what that. I
yeah.
haven't even really
They're
looked
they're
into
trying
it.
to make
But
it
the funny,
political.
they're making it political. This is not a political issue. This is a people issue. Number one, that was my message. That was my message in the solo episode. But the thing is, whatever that conspiracy group is, I don't think existed when the movie was made
It
with
didn't.
Jim. So the fact is, like they're trying to paint this thing, and it doesn't even add up on a timeline, and it's such BS. So anybody who's wondering, like, I heard that my buddy told me that don't watch that movie because it's a conspiracy theory. Like, go do your homework
Well
because it
well, and
doesn't make
there's
any
some
freaking
crap that
sense.
came out last week or a couple weeks ago that about one of the investors was arrested for being involved in a child kidnapping. Well, guess what? When Angel, I wasn't one of the investors. Yeah, like there was just like 5 of us in the beginning, right? But when
Yeah.
Angel wanted to take
And you were there from the jump. You were there from the
yeah, I
get-go
was
that you
I'm the primary
started this
investor.
movie.
I'm the first investor in the film, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
the Angel Studios has this crowdfunding type of thing where you can put in $100 up to 1,000, whatever, and just be a part of the distribution, right? They don't vet everybody. They're like, yeah, if you want to be a part of this, if you believe in what we're doing, great, then we'll give you a return. He was one of almost 7,000 people who decided to donate a
Mhm.
few $100s or whatever else, right? So it's crap.
Yeah.
You can't pin that on the movie or the movement.
It's so disgusting people trying to pin or, like, spend energy and time to find bad in such a film that's trying to do so much good. It's like, what are you doing? The only thing I can assume you're doing is that you're trying to help the other
Yeah,
guy, and the other guy is like the freaking devil
yeah, that's
in human form. So
exactly.
what do you like, is that who you're supporting?
They're
Because
showing their
if you're
right.
not telling us that directly, your actions are telling us
Yeah,
that directly.
yeah.
You said you had something you
Well,
wanted to share, and I
this
kept
is just super beautiful. So, you've got the Barbie movie that came out almost the same time as Sound of Freedom, right? Let's just do the comparison.
yeah.
Why is the Barbie movie being heavily promoted and praised by the mainstream media, while this same mainstream media undervalues, demonizes, and tries to silence Sound of Freedom, despite it being a box office success? Simple. It's because of the message. So, Barbie's message: men are useless. The traditional family is irrelevant. What makes a woman is her physical beauty. Anyone can be a Barbie, even a man. Dr. Barbie is a trans. The future is feminist and sexually diverse. Women are the heads, men submit. The key catchphrase, she is everything, he is just Ken, which is a euphemism for he is just good for sex. The Sound of Freedom message, parents are essential. Traditional families are essential. Real men and women defend the innocence of children. The future depends on moral men and women of faith who have the courage to protect their own homes and the children who grow up within them. The key catchphrase, God's children are not for sale.
Not for
There's
sale.
the difference right
Wow.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's I know, like, we're not even trying to shoot down Barbie or anything, like, whatever, but the fact is that right before Barbie came out, Sound of Freedom had all these people trying to poke holes in it for weird, like you just outlined, and then it's like, it had so many great values that came from it. I saw it personally, I felt it, I lived it.
Yeah.
I was happy to share. I'm someone who if I experience a great product, service, person, event, I share it with everybody because I don't want to be the only one that got to take advantage or not advantage, but
Yeah.
experience it. Like if I got something good here, I want to share it with the world. And so that's what I did with the movie. But then Barbie comes out, and it's like we're not even trying to talk bad about it. It's a movie about a doll, but to give it all this praise, and it's such a shallow thing. Like, but 2 weeks ago you were like knocking this other movie so hard. It's like you just outlined it so perfectly. Guys, it's right out in the open, okay? This isn't conspiracy. This is what's really going on in the world. And so let's wrap the episode up with this, Paul. People are listening right now and they want to make a difference. And you said, there's the Rambos of the world that may want to go out there and do that. And I think obviously you kind of I know you said that jokingly, but we need the Rambos too. We need the people that are out there doing it because we need someone that brave to like you guys did in your missions. But we also like there's financial that they can go to. I want to make sure I give it to them the right way. So your foundation is called the Child Liberation Foundation, and so we're going to send people there. Okay, but how else can somebody like me sitting in that movie theater that was so called to action? What can we do?
There's a lot of really good foundations. In fact, you can go to liberatechildren.org and you can see a lot of the ones where we're not selfish saying you have to donate everything to us and we'll figure out what to do with it. No, we've posted a number of other really good foundations that we trust that are fighting this. You can donate to some that have a bunch of Navy SEALs that are going in and busting heads and pulling kids out. You can donate to some that are doing a lot of the aftercare and helping heal, et cetera. So there's a lot of beautiful things that you can do there, from not only donating money, but there's a place you can fill out some information about your background, your skill sets, what you can bring to the table. And, maybe you can go help build one of the healing retreats or one of the safe houses for the kids. Or there's a lot of beautiful things that people can do to get involved. And we're providing a lot through the Liberating-Humanity website, and hopefully I'll have the Liberating Humanity without the hyphen. I've got a bid out for that now. But anyway, so Liberating
Sure.
Humanity will give you a lot of additional tools to help keep your family safe, to help your family heal from trauma, so that if something, God forbid, happened to a family member at some time, so that they can release that trauma and they don't hold on to it where it comes out in anger or physical abuse or even sexual abuse of others. It's so important that we help people heal and move past that. That's what a future free of trafficking looks like, is helping people heal today. And so those tools are all things you can find on the Liberating Humanity website and the ongoing podcast. We have a lot of beautiful things coming out. We have some books that go into detail of the child rescue mission so that you can see what's going on and how you can keep your kids safe as well as part of that.
Wow. So incredible. I got that all linked in the show notes, guys, so you can go there.
Thank you, Mike.
Easy to find it. But yeah, you're welcome. And I just wanted to remind people, you'll when you experience it, when you see that film and watch it a second time, something will come to you and you're going to say, I know how I can help.
Yeah.
But go to the website and then you'll find there's different opportunities. There's different things you can do in your community. Um, I had a podcast, so I was like, hey, that's the way I can immediately contribute. And now, obviously there's financial contributions, but I'm still looking for other ways. I don't know if it's an event. Maybe you and I can partner on something and
Would
just
love
bring
that.
more awareness, bring more people, some live Q&A. I know there's a lot of people. Everybody I sent to go see the movie gave me positive feedback, and they were super inspired. Um, so I know that now when this episode drops, there's so much more substance here because you shared real stories and shared how people can help. So this is exactly what I was hoping for. And you over delivered, brother.
Thank you, Mike.
So I love you, brother, and what you do, what you've been doing and continue to do is really special. And I'm excited that I was a small part of it today on this episode. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we part with our audience today?
I'm just expressing gratitude for you in using your gifts and expanding this message to your audience. Our goal is to have a powerful, positive impact in the lives of other people. And understand this. Back at the time of Abraham Lincoln, it wasn't guys like us that were rescuing the slaves that created the biggest difference. It was people like you.
Mhm.
It was the influencers. It was Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote a book called Uncle Tom's Cabin, which was the media, the podcast of the age, right? Where good people
Yeah.
could read that and see what was really going on in the South. In fact, years later, when Abraham Lincoln met her, he shook her hand. He said, "So you're the little lady that wrote the book that started the big war." And so, we're not here to start a physical war, but we are here to raise the banner of the sound of freedom. The sound of freedom is not just the beautiful sound of the children as they were free in Columbia. The sound of freedom is a battle cry for all of us who need to break free from addictions or from our past or from trauma or whatever it is, and keep our children free and moving forward, and not allowing this kind of an evil to hold them captive and to create this generational trauma moving forward. So God's children are not for sale. Hold on to your kids, hug them tight, create a relationship. This doesn't have to be you going to church every day, but a relationship with God will direct your life in a way that will transform it and ensure that you can keep safe and keep your children safe as well.
Yeah. So good, man. Mic drop moment right there at the end. I enjoy talking with you, and I just feel like I'm talking to someone who, I have a lot of respect for.
Thank you, Mike.
And I really appreciate you sharing your message on the show. You said the word gratitude. I lit up like a Christmas tree because BGBG is the be great, be grateful. That's the messaging for the podcast, and I actually just want to say something. I have merchandise for the podcast and 100% of the profit. So I have to at least cover the cost of the goods. But anytime we make 1 cent above what it cost us to produce the shirt, everything is getting donated to different charities. And I'm going to add yours to our list.
Thank you, Mike. Super great.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Be great and be grateful. Thank you guys for being with us today, whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, however you got to us today. I know Paul's grateful for your ears and eyes, and share this message with people you love and care about so they can then take action with their families, and it starts at the home. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you, Mike.